we can just roll into it. Erik Horne here, senior editor at Andscape, here with senior writer Clinton Yates, another senior writer, Martenzie Johnson. We are talking about the Washington Wizards. Martenzie, you are based in D.C. Clinton, you are D.C. native. Y'all are obviously invested in this story. I'm invested in it because I don't like to see teams pull from downtown areas. I live in Atlanta. I could go on a long rant about how the Atlanta Braves were snatched from Turner Field, which is in a downtown area, and brought out to the suburbs. So we could get into this. Obviously, our man Ted is trying to move the team out of the downtown area and across the river to build one of these complexes where owners like to reap the benefits of the economic development and the mixed use and all of the buzzwords that we like to use when we're building things around stadiums. Clinton, you wrote about this a few years ago as it pertains to John Wall. Martenzie, you're writing about this for Andscape this week, and you got to talk to some fans. I want to start with you, Martenzie. How are the fans feeling about this, particularly Black fans?
Yeah, so I gotta admit, I went into this thinking they all were going to hate it. I mean, we all have our biases going into these stories, but surprisingly enough, it's complex, which is mostly how all these situations end up. So everyone I talk to does not want them to do it. They would much rather it stay in DC. It's mostly for selfish reasons. It's convenient, right? So one guy works 2 blocks from there. He just gets to walk over there after work when he wants to go to games. Other people live either in DC or close by in PG County or Montgomery County, and they don't want to add the extra 20 some odd minutes to get to the arena. On the flip side, not everyone is ecstatic about, oh, sorry, it's not the flip side. And not everyone's ecstatic about going to Virginia. I've been in Northern Virginia a few times. It's all right. There's nothing to write home about, but it's some good restaurants there. But going deeper into Virginia, you run into some issues when you look like the three of us. And so without any prompting, mind you, I just asked people, how do you feel about Northern Virginia? And I was like, no, I don't really go over there. So they don't plan to go to as many games. And they don't want the team to leave. But at the same time, I think everyone else recognizes that if they couldn't get the public funding, which most everyone I talked to was okay with being used, if they couldn't get that funding, they knew the team couldn't stay. So they're like, we get it. Not to mention the crime issue. Everyone understands why $1 billion industry would want to pick up shop and go across the river.
I'll say it this way, and I'll offer 2 quick prompts. You know how they have that prompt on TikTok where they say, "Is there any topic you could talk about for 30 minutes unprompted, off the cuff, no questions asked, in front of a live audience without thinking twice?" This is it. Not even a question. I didn't just write about this, Erik, and I'm not saying this pejoratively. This is my life, the existence of this franchise as a sports fan. And so if you want to start doing other analogies, my first album was about this. This is all that I really understood about the growth of what DC sports was in a certain era. And the reason I bring all that up is because, like, yeah, Tinsy, right now, what it looks like in DC, a place I no longer live, let us be clear about that, but a place I was born and raised and grew up in and was once a season ticket holder in for various teams that played at that arena. Snatch was a good word, Erik. You know what I mean? Because the idea is the roots are built in a certain place, and people forget this about the district all the time. It is a basketball town, irrespective of the NBA team. Think about the pros that come out of DC. Think about the college players that come out of DC, men's and women's, kiddos. That's the thing. The culture of basketball in the district is something that has almost never been that related to the NBA team. And that's why this is feeling like such a betrayal, because folks want to like that team a lot more. Folks show up anyway just to have a good time, just to see your friends around the basketball world. Everybody understands that they're not putting a competitive product on the floor and haven't been pretty much my whole lifetime. But the point is that we can get into the specifics of the monies, the places, and all that. But there was an understanding. Once they got to the district, they stayed in the district. This was the whole point. Ask Commanders fans who are still trying to get back to RFK.
Yeah, you bring up the Commanders, and that was one of the people in your story, Martenzie, was like, the Commanders playing effing Landover. Like, I'm not geographically savvy about the DC area. When I looked at the map and I saw, the distance from downtown to where they would be moving in Alexandria, I was like, well, it doesn't seem that far geographically. But for certain people who have lives that revolve around the district in the city, having to spend the additional time to go out there to a place that they're unfamiliar with, that might be enough to be like, I'm out. And I don't know the distance from Landover to downtown DC, but I feel like that's way farther. Am I correct, Clinton, on that?
Let me explain
Landover's kind
something
of
to
out
you.
there.
Let me explain something to you that I think will actually put a lot of keys together on the map. The parking lot of where the Commanders play is where the Bullets used to play. The Capitol Center is literally in the same place of where the Commanders play right now. To give you an idea of what you understand about how much people can't stand going to FedEx. Do you see what I'm saying? Even if it's just 10 times a year, that's literally where the Caps played before, and the Wizards. They came from Baltimore to there. So it wasn't the same relationship with just being an out-of-town team. They were not moved out from there. They came from one place to there and then moved closer to the city. So that's as far as it is. It's not an unfathomable distance in terms of what it was, in terms of what everybody moves in. It's about the fact that, like, the goal was to be in the city. You own the building, Theodore. That's the whole point. And so to jump around geographically just for the sake of a land deal just feels kind of disingenuous to what the whole cause is if you claim to be about community and, the district, which it says on their jerseys.
And also as a transplant to this area, Landover to DC is because I live by FedEx. Landover to DC on a good day, and traffic is a main concern here too. On a good day, takes you about 20 minutes, right? But Landover couldn't be further from DC, if you get what I mean, right? Like, it's Black people in both areas, but like, I know when I'm in PG County and I know when I'm in DC, and like, that is a big difference in and of itself. Now you add in Alexandria, Virginia, and now we're talking about, like, yeah, they can still be the Wizards. You can still play go-go music. You can still whatever at these games, but like, it looks feels, smells vastly different being in Alexandria than it is compared to Chinatown, DC.
Ain't nobody playing no go-go in no Alexandria like that, Tinsy. I'm not saying they don't have go-go's in Alexandria. I'm not saying that people don't respect the culture there. I'm saying that is a different maneuver, which gets us to ESA, where the Mystics and the practice facility was, and the go-go played as well out in Southeast. Like, there are multiple tentacles to this that you just cannot pull off and be like, yep, we're fine. We're going to Virginia. Like, I mean, I get it. If you want to make a business move, okay. But the whole, like, guess what? I'm throwing a press conference. Guess what? You didn't get it right. Like, why is this so contentious? What's going on here? This is not how this was supposed to go. And I don't really understand why this all feels so aggressive in terms of how the land deals go. But I mean, I guess that's politics and that's called hardball, but still, it just doesn't seem like a smart move. Even if I wasn't the person that I am, this does not seem like a smart move for a person that's trying to, I don't know, grow whatever they're trying to grow.
As a selfish media member, I want all arenas downtown, all ballparks, all arenas downtown. I want to be able to walk everywhere. I don't want to have to take an Uber 30, 40 minutes just to get to a place. All arenas downtown.
You want to talk about geography. So you said 30, 40 minutes. So I'm not being literal here, but almost literal. And Clinton will know what I'm talking about. There's practically literally one road that gets you from downtown DC past Reagan Airport to where this thing is going to be, right? Like, if you think traffic is bad now, imagine all of these people trying to drive in that direction. And we didn't get to the metro, which apparently the
blue and yellow line
Monumental and Virginia forgot to tell one of the largest metro systems in the entire country that, hey, we might be building something at your new stop that you just made that I just read today has exactly one escalator and one set of stairs.
Are you listening to what he's saying, Eric? These are the basics of urbanism that random rich people who do not understand how cities operate do not take into consideration on a plain logistical level. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I mean. Beyond my emotional connection to any basketball team that plays anywhere in the area, this is foolish from a people moving standpoint. You know what I mean? This is going to be too difficult. There's an airport across the street.
Look,
dog.
I forgot
What?
one more thing. I'm sorry, Eric. One more thing. Also, this metro system, one of the biggest in the country, has a $750 million shortfall. And the same week that the team announced that they were moving to Virginia and would have to use that specific stop for where the arena is going to be, that was one of the stations that was going to get cut from service.
I rode the metro to school every day from 4th grade to 10th grade. Do you understand that? All right, I am familiar with this system in ways that nobody at this entire network is, hands down, lock, stock, and barrel. No chance that this is a good idea. None.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying they built Truist Park, SunTrust, whatever you want to call it, in Atlanta, in Cobb County, where the MARTA is not allowed. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes they do this stuff for a reason, y'all.
That joint is in Smyrna. I have been there multiple times.
They do this for a reason.
It is not ATL, shawty. It's not, and you're right. They do it for a reason, but those reasons are so obvious that it's like, okay, Ted, if you want to say you just want out, say you want out. Let me be clear about this. You wouldn't be the first owner to leave D.C. because of problems perceived to be about Black people. You can look that up. I wrote about that too, Eric. Ding dong, the Minnesota Twins exist because the brother who owned the team, the human who owned the team, did not like that many Black folks at his games. I'm not saying that's where Theodore is at, but I'm saying that this element of the crime downtown is out of control. Come on, Tenzie. Come on. The dog whistles are very loud.
Yeah, all right.
And I'm like, come on, man. Listen, we get it. The city downtown after the pandemic, like many other downtown spaces, has not thrived the way people wanted to. But the whole point of owning the building is that there is some level of public trust that you have and that you've got to be part of whatever it is that is the anchor of that situation. That's the whole point. But everybody seems to think that that doesn't matter once it comes down to being able to have an opportunity, frankly, to diss Black folks in the DC government.
Yeah, and like you mentioned the crime thing. Look, I'm not at Gallery Place / Chinatown, which is where the arena is. I'm not there every single day. I don't take it as that. But every time I'm there is usually for a game or going to a restaurant. I went to the tapas place down the street. Like
wow,
all I see are like
money?
Black people congregating.
I
don't see them doing anything per se, but like they're just there. And like maybe that's why there's this idea that there's just so much crime. But like for my story, I'm talking to a gentleman right outside of the Gallery Place metro station, and literally 5 to 10. Uh-oh.
No, you good.
Uh-oh.
Something's in my ear.
I don't hear it.
I don't hear it either.
Sorry, it's my my Apple Music just started playing in my ear.
Oh, you got fired up. You turned on.
Okay, we're good. That messed me up. But like, literally 10 feet away from us is a man singing a cover of Bobby Caldwell. Like, what is so dangerous about that? And so I think, look, crime is a problem. Like, I see the tweets that follow all the crime that happens in DC and PG. And yeah, it's bad. I think you might have just heard about the Chanel store. Like, it's an issue, right? But like, as far as that area during the times that these games are going on, I don't see it myself, but I'm not there all the time, so I can't speak for everyone. But it just seems like we see Black people there, thus they must be up to no good sort of thing. And like, I just haven't had that relationship with Gallery Place.
I'm not going to lie. It's inappropriate on some level, this entire concept based on the logic being stated. Like, if, I don't know, let's just say there was some sort of environmental fault where the building was falling apart and you had to like move or else it was going to cave into the earth or whatever. Or, God knows what, there had been some massive fire or whatever, some structural damage. But like, none of that is the case. Not even close. They just got through putting a ton of money into that place. They put a sports book in the lobby because, hello, they knew what the foot traffic was surrounding games to make extra money on top of that. So, like, don't tell me this isn't obviously an economic engine on some level for what Monumental Sports is trying to do, but instead trying to get a deal out of the city just because you can and you got a homie across the river. It just doesn't feel right. Like, I don't even have to be all meticulous about it. It doesn't sit right with me, and I know why.
You know what doesn't sit right with me? That Ted is trying to make moves when the real crime is going on inside the building. This team stinks, y'all. Like, how is he out here trying to justify safety inside or outside and setting up in these new places where people can feel safe? And I don't think he said those exact words, but we kind of know what goes on with this stuff. They want when they
Right.
move teams from one area that's a downtown area that's urban, quote unquote, to places in the suburbs, it's really to make the people that they want to feel safe feel safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, how am I supposed to feel safe watching the Washington Wizards clank up a bunch of bricks and not play defense every night? Like, and I'm not being serious, but I am kind of being serious. How do you justify doing anything that's asking anybody for any inordinate amount of public money when you're not willing to put out a product that's worth a damn? And granted, they kind of hit that middle ground for years and said, okay, we're gonna try and toe the line between we're never gonna tank, basically. But it's like sometimes you have to be bad in order to get to where you're going. It just happens to be coinciding with their tanking. Is like, oh, and now we want to ask the public for a bunch of money. It's like, bro, you should have did this shit a long time ago. And pardon my language, we're gonna have to leave that out. We should have done this whole tanking situation a long time ago. And now you're tanking, and you want to go ask for $1 billion from Alexandria. Like, I don't care what color the people are. You can't ask for money when you're in as bad a shape as they're in.
Two things for you, Eric. Number one, while I go say this other stat, I want you to do something. I want you to go to your Google, put in the search bar, Ted Leonsis, "We Will Never Tank," and then click
Oh
images
no.
and show me what pops up. And whilst you do that, I'm going to tell you that I believe off the top of my head, I have this right. In the last 35 years, the Wizards/Bullets franchise has won 5 total playoff series. Certainly haven't won 50 games in the entirety of my actual lifetime.
Ever.
And it's
Ever.
like, that is like the whole other part where you're like, dog, come on, son. We are here to celebrate the game. We ain't even worried about whether or not the team's good. But when you chase everybody out of town that everybody likes, John Wall at the top of the list. Let us also not forget, y'all aren't going to know this, but Phil Chenier and my man Steve Buckhantz, who were the local broadcasters on the telecast for 2 decades. They gave them the boot out of nowhere. Cats were like, well, hold up, dog. You just throwing out our guys? You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole other thing where it was like, this has to be by design. And what you're getting rid of is is the only thing that people actually liked. So I don't know what you think you're bringing to the table here if these people that we enjoy are no longer part of the process. Did you find the image I was looking for?
What does this image look like again? I see a lot of
It's
stories that say
just
we will.
Ted that says "We will never tank." He said this very specifically. I cannot remember
Oh,
the
I've,
year,
I've got the
but
articles. I've got plenty of articles
he
that we will never tank.
staked his reputation on "We will never tank," and that was what I called at the time when I was writing for the Washington Post the commitment to mediocrity. I could talk about this all day.
That's it's actually similar. It might be, the darkest before dawn sort of situation here, because that's exactly what Herb Cole said about the Bucks. Essentially, it was like, we're always going to play for the eighth seed. And for years and years, traded for JJ Redick, traded forever just to be right? And so every year you can't get a high draft pick, but at least you get playoff revenue. I don't know, whatever. They finally bottom out, and when they bottom out, they draft Giannis Antetokounmpo. So if now with them obviously committing to the tank, like, they haven't said the word tank exactly, but since media day, they were like, this is a rebuild, which is AKA tank, right? So
that means they're not committed. They're not. I don't trust it. Respectfully, Tins, you're laying out your argument very nicely, and that chronology makes sense. But I do not trust it. That's the problem here.
You know why I trust it, respectfully, but like, he's playing horribly, so we have to say it. Jordan Poole, right? Like, you're not committed to being mediocre or even good when you hand him the keys. He's just not ready for it. He's a nice guy. He's very respectful and everything, but like, his basketball is not winning basketball, right? So they have that. They don't even play most of their starters over 30 minutes. Like, this seems pretty clear to me. Like, we are committed to being bad. And not to mention, they lost, 13, 14 straight games.
Okay, I will give you that. They're committed to being bad. But here's my thing. There is an element of, like, you've got to be real in the face of the circumstance. Like this whole like, oh, we just happen to be terrible. Oh, Jordan Poole didn't work out. No, tear it down. Admit to people that that's what's happening. Don't try to sell me club seats. And I don't mean club level seats. I mean, they trying to put the club behind the basket on the other end of the floor. You know what I'm talking about, Tenzie.
Yeah, you can get bottle service.
Get bottle service. Thank you. What's that about?
That's a state.
Eric, stop it.
That's a State Farm Arena. That's a State Farm Arena, Phillips Arena, Atlanta move. Martenzie, you got to answer this question too. Is there a barbershop at the Capital One Arena? Is there a barbershop?
There isn't one, but since they're moving to Virginia, they can put a great clips in there and they'll make that.
No. All right, that's it. It's over.
Shut it down. Shut it down. This is over.
Martenzie Johnson, Clinton Yates. Thanks for joining us today. All right, read Martenzie's story on Andscape.com. Read Clinton's past stories on this on Andscape.com. Thank you all.
Thank you.